Gruff. We're going to go ahead and dive in. I'm going to show you how this game plays real quick. So Gruff is a two-player card game, and kind of give you a brief overview already, but basically you are shepherds with these crazy, insane looking battle goats that have been modified and mutated and constructed. Some of them look kind of ridiculous, some look disgusting. Even just looking at the mat here, you can kind of get a good sense of what the aesthetic of this game is. It's a little interesting. So that said, though, it is a very interesting, unique card game underneath all of it. And so I'm going to show you just real quick is the rules of the game and how it plays out. This is the two-player starter box. It comes with enough for 2 decks. This is the full 4-player game. Now, the game doesn't actually play 4 players. It's 2v2. It's 1v1. But with this, you can play a 4-player draft. There's enough goats and whatnot in there to do it. So first step is you have to pick shepherds. So shepherds are the main characters. These are the guys that you're trying to defeat the other person of. So I think out of the base box, they give you a few different options. You can only build 2 decks here, but you do have 6 different shepherds to choose from. And you can see they each have their own special ability. They each have their own starting health and thresholds. They each have their own crazy levels and all of that. So it's pretty interesting. So you set them up here and here. And I don't know if you can see the top one, but we'll focus here on the bottom one. I'll just slide this one up so you can see how it kind of plays. And then you're going to pick 3 gruffs, is what they're called, the goat things. So I'm just going to pick 3 at random here. And then the other side is going to do the same thing. You have a couple of alternate options here. There aren't enough in the deck really to bring too many out, but this will get you started. And then for each of these gruffs, there are 15 cards in the deck, but you only pick 8 of them. So what we'll do is we'll go through, we'll find those 15 cards, and then you set them aside so that we can just quickly pick out our 8. And the reason I'm going through all this is because you're going to do this every game. This isn't a one-time setup thing. It's part of the game experience, is picking these out. If you play with 4 people, you're going to draft them. So you'll lay out all these different shepherd and gruff options, and then you'll draft them out to basically determine who's going to get what. And then in terms of tracking stuff, we have these little plastic clips. So there's those. So I'm going to go ahead and put everything else back here in the box because that's everything we need. Slide that off to the side, and we'll get to the rest of this set up. So I'm not going to go through all of these because they do a lot of different things, but you can see they have a lot of different values. All the way up to 21 for an ultimate attack, as little as 1. So I'll pick a few of each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you see these little horns up here. That means that's an ultimate. You can only have as many ultimates as shown on the card here. So she can have 3. So we'll just pick 1 from each of these guys. And then, again, I'm just picking these randomly. Probably in a game you'd want to spend a little bit more time thinking about it. But we don't need to think about it because we're just showing you how to play. Okay. So we get our 24 cards here. We shuffle them up real quick. Okay, we set them aside. And then we have to put the clips on. Now this is something I probably could have done before the video, but real quick I can just show you. You mark all the starting things, and they're all like a little brighter than the rest. And I'll tell you what all these things mean in just a moment. It's not that complicated, although there are a lot of stats. And really it's just the language that's used here to describe what these things are is a little bit unique. So I'll show you what that all means momentarily. So the interesting thing about this game, though, is that it's standalone. There's no expansions or no collectability to it. It's kind of that standalone model. So I really like that. It makes it a little bit easier to teach, and it's balanced out of the box. You don't have to worry about the deck building component. So there you go, all set up. So how the game works is you are trying to knock out your opponent's life power. So this character has 7 to start. The one we're facing over here also has 7, but some of them have more or less than that. And so she has a special ability. It says whenever her life drops below a threshold, and that's these lines here, you draw an extra card. So that's nice. And to play cards, we're trying to build up our crazy level. And I think the thematic conceit here is that the Gruffs are so weird that their weirdness increases the crazy level of our shepherd. So when you start each turn, you're going to be choosing one of these Gruffs to activate. You'll turn them sideways. And then whatever their weird value is, you're going to add that to your shepherd. So let's say we activated Skulldozer, we would increase it by 1. And that's what you have available to play the cards out of your hand. Each of these Gruffs also has an ability on it when you activate it. So this one says +2 Fat when activated. Fat is your defensive stat. Mean down here is your offensive stat. That's it. They're just using special language for all this stuff, but you basically have attack, defense, and action points on the cards. All right. So then we're going to draw, at the beginning of the game, you draw 5 cards, and then on every turn at this point, you would draw another one. And so we now have 2 crazy available to play. And so we're going to look at our hand. We have 1 card that only costs 2. It's Dissect. Choose one, destroy any mutation or condition card, or Grover gains 1 weird. So we'll just go ahead and give Grover 1 weird. Weird is good because it gives you more crazy later. All right. So that's it. We've spent all of our points. This doesn't go down, so you're just keeping track of that mentally because you're going to start with that next time. And then we are going to decide what to do with our Gruff. So the Gruff activation happens at the end of the round, and you can do one of a few things. You can swap them with another Gruff. So these positions are fixed here, and they're going to correspond to the Gruffs that are up here. So this one would attack this Gruff, this one would attack this one would attack this one, and so on. So if you want to switch, because maybe you're seeing a really strong one over here and you want to get them over, this is when you do it. Another thing you can do is increase one of the stats, any one of these stats by 1. So you can say, I want to make this Gruff meaner. You can do that. If one of these Gruffs is dead, you can resurrect on this point. So the resurrect, like dying, the Gruffs dying doesn't matter too much. You can bring them back whenever. They don't lose any of their stats. So it's just a kind of inconvenience when you lose half a turn. And then the last thing you can do is attack. And so the attack is very interesting because you move them up and say, I'm attacking, but you don't attack right away. You actually don't attack until the beginning of your next turn. It gives your opponent a chance to increase their defense over here, get rid of some of your mutation cards, basically prepare for the attack. And then when it's your turn again, that's the first thing you'll do. Before you draw any cards, you'll resolve your attack. And so how the attack works is you look at your mean stat, that's your offense, then you're going to look at the defense of your opponent. So let's say this guy was over there, and his defense is 2, his fat is 2. And so you would basically cancel it out, and that would be that. If it's more, if you have more attack than defense, this dies, and then the difference goes to the shepherd. So he's going to take damage based on the difference. There are a whole bunch of other ways to do damage to the shepherd. A lot of these cards do things like there's like ongoing conditions. So like this one, for example, says, while this card is in play, the defending shepherd takes 1 damage whenever a Gruff on your team has their attack fully blocked. So basically this says, if you attack and the other side completely blocks it, you are going to do 1 damage to the shepherd. So they don't want to fully block your attacks, but ideally, they just want to get rid of this card because that sucks. Every time they attack, they're going to hit you. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff like that. And you're going to be putting out mutations. You'll stack the mutations on each of the cards. There's a lot of ways to get rid of mutations. And it goes back and forth for between 5 and 10 rounds until somebody knocks out the other opponent. The other way you can lose is if all 3 of your Gruffs are dead at the same time, which would probably require some combination of card play and messing up, because you can resurrect your stuff whenever you want to. So if you ignore it and let 2 of your guys die without resurrecting, that's not smart. So you probably want to bring them back. But there might be situations in which you have to do that so that you don't die and see what happens. So as you can see, it's a fairly simple game. The rules are maybe 5 or 10 pages. They're really short. It plays really quick. It's easy to get out and get going. The aesthetic, I think, is the main point for a lot of people. Some people are going to look at this and think, ugh, a little bit gross. Others are going to think it looks awesome. I think I fall somewhere in the middle. I think it looks pretty cool, but some of the gruffs are a little bit ickier than others. But it's an interesting quick game, so it's definitely worth checking out. Let's hop back and I'll give you a little bit more on my thoughts for this one. All right, guys.